Plenty going on in the 2014 Indiana General Assembly session. Our issue experts will provide the details in this week's legislative report. Here for the big picture is Chamber President and CEO Kevin Brinegar. Kevin, we talk about the rapid pace often. Just how quick do these short sessions move?
Well, the analogy that I use for short sessions is it's like trying to grab onto a train that's already speeding down the track, and you hope that your arm doesn't get ripped off. But we've only been in session 11 days. They typically take Fridays off, and yet by the end of next week, bills will have had to have come out of committee of the first House and moved to the floor of the House and Senate to even be considered to be alive. In total, there have been 870 bills filed this legislative session. That's down about 25% from last year. That's in part because there are limits placed on both senators and House members as far as how many bills they can file in a short session.
Kevin, you mentioned first half deadlines coming quickly. What's the schedule look like?
Well, the first half of the legislative session is wrapping up next week. Bills have to pass out of committee by the middle of next week. Anything that doesn't come out of committee, that bill is dead for this year. And then they'll head to the floor for second reading, which is the amendment stage. The House deadline for that is Friday of next week. Senate deadline is Tuesday of the week after. But by February 3rd, all bills will have had to clear the House, and February 5th, all bills in the Senate will have had to have cleared the Senate in order to still be alive this session.
Kevin, you mentioned nearly 900 bills filed in 2014. How many of those typically make it to the governor's desk?
Well, if we look at 2013, there were 1,232 bills introduced. 294 of those, so right at 25%, became law, and of those 294, it was literally split half and half between the House and the Senate. You need to think of a legislative session as like a funnel where you have all these bills, they get filed. They have to get to the governor's desk, they have to cross over 13 different hurdles. That's introductions, committee hearings, floor action in both the House and the Senate. They can go to conference committee, where even though they've passed both houses, they can die there. So it is a funneling process, and typically it's common for 20 or 25% of all the bills that are originally introduced to pass the Indiana General Assembly. If we look at that 294 bills that passed last year and compare that to Congress, in 2013, only 60 bills introduced in the United States Congress became law last year, which was one of the lowest totals in history or in recent history that can be identified, and it indicates and sort of further documents how unproductive the U.S. Congress is.
Kevin, thank you. Again, check out the stories in this week's legislative report for all the details.